Welcome in this autumn time in this part of the earth that I'm speaking to you right now, that is Poland. In this time of the year, which is a time of introspection, a time of giving oneself space, coming more into a cave-like atmosphere. I can't find words right now. Basically, the darker part of the year is a great time for self-reflection, introspection, analyzing what has been in my life and what I would like to create in the upcoming year, in the upcoming season of reborn light on the winter solstice that will happen on 21st of December. In this moment, I was having some thoughts to share here on YouTube about Mary Magdalene, because in the goddess movement, in the sacred feminine spirituality, in all paths that are connected to the goddess, the archetype of the goddess, the energy of the great mother goddess, and everything that is around femininity, that's the word proper. Mary Magdalene has a very, very special place, I think, because in the Western culture, one of the most widespread books, spiritual books, is a Bible. In most of the countries in the West, there is a domination of Christianity. And many of us has been raised in the biblical stories, in, philosophy that comes from that, and everybody knows a person that was called Jesus, or actually Yeshua. And of course, that Mary Magdalene has a very, very special place, and I'm very happy to see that her role, her person, her story is being reborn in a more respectful way, with more dignity, because it's no secret how she was portrayed in the Bible. For me, in my 20 years research about sacred femininity, in my research around Mary Magdalene, I came across different dimensions of her person and different dimensions of her story. I'm, of course, sharing here my own personal opinion, and I'm, of course, sharing here my own personal research about Mary Magdalene. What is the most accessible, a part of this invented story in the Bible? The most accessible are channelings from Mary Magdalene, from people who are claiming that they connected with her spirit, connected with her energy. So it's very easy to find different books that are channelings from Mary Magdalene. And in my opinion, in these channelings, we can find very interesting, very valuable, very multidimensional aspects of the feminine spirituality, of the energy of the goddess, of the energy of the feminine. I'm not going to question channelings, because channelings are not something to analyze intellectually, analyze rationally. It's something to, in my opinion, something more to feel, something more to journey with, and get something for own self, get maybe some bits and pieces of somebody's channeling, and see how it can be applied to my own spiritual journey, to my own spiritual growth, to the growth of my personality, to the growth of my identity. I think that in that aspect, Mary Magdalene, her spirit, her legacy played huge role in the Western cultures. From a villain, from an outcast in the Bible, from a person who has been put in some kind of a dirty space of life, in the dirty aspect of sexuality, in the, disrespectful place in the society. For so many people, she actually has been a spiritual guide and inspiration. I personally think spirituality is not just about channeling. If we want to explore an archetype, I would highly recommend to also explore archaeology and historical evidences from different sources, because history and archaeology is also very biased. And about Mary Magdalene, or actually Mary or Mariam from Magdala, there is quite a lot of information. I'm not going now to repeat what you can find online. I highly recommend to make your own archaeological dig online and see what you can find about this very interesting person. I would like to more summarize what I have found about her regarding her as a historical figure and how it corresponds with her image in the Bible. So it won't be a surprise for many of us, for many of you, and it's not surprising for me, that actually Mary from Magdala had a very high and respectful social status. She was a leader of community of Magdala. She was some kind of a mayor in her time of Magdala, a very prosperous city, a city or actually town, community, that has been a trade city, town, place, that was a place where, because of the trade that was connected to the sea, there were also, many people coming from different parts of the world. So there was a huge exchange, not only economically, but also exchange of information, exchange of spirituality as well. And according to history, she was living in a tower. So she had her own space, and tower shows that she was above. So if we look at some aspect of social hierarchy, it shows that she had a high status. She was also, from historical information, she was also a person who was managing finances, managing social economical life of that community. She was a manager. So comparing that to her image in the Bible, we can clearly see what has been done to her by the men of that religion, so-called the patriarchs of this Christian branch, Catholic branch of Christianity, let's say. Basically, she has been excluded, outcasted, marginalized, and there was a smear campaign on her in the Bible. And smear campaign is nothing historical only. Smear campaigns are happening all the time right now to people who are anti-establishment, to people who are whistleblowers, to people who are, anarchistic, let's say, to people who are questioning authorities. Another interesting aspect that I think many of us are drawn to and connected to is this spiritual legacy of Mary Magdalene, because there are many traces, literal physical traces of her migrating to southern France in the late stage of her life. There is a special cave that is considered to contain her skull. There are loads of local tales and pieces of information that she has been in that region, which is known to be multicultural, which is known to be a melting pot for many different cultures and beliefs because of the trade, because of the transport and movement on the Mediterranean Sea. And in that stage of her life, she is presented as a sage, as a philosopher, as we can say a sadhu. Looking at the Himalayan tradition, we find loads and loads of stories that people in some stage in their life, they travel to Himalayas, they go into the caves to meditate on their transcendental nature, to transcendent material existence and enter the spiritual existence, to enter the high vibrational existence. And these information are also around, Mary Magdalene in her late stage of life, that she renounced, let's say, human life, and that she entered this, I could say, way of sadhu, using Hindu terminology, using Vedic terminology, that she became some kind of a guru. I think it's very interesting, if we could have a chance to meet her in that stage of her life, after all these really heavy experiences of her being excluded from her socials, from her high social status, and her situation with Yeshua, Jesus. I think, was she a spiritual person? Was she a high priestess? Which is not very clear, also looking at the historical evidences. I think still she would have been a fascinating person to have conversation with. From the research that I have done, I came across a hypothesis that actually Mary was not just a name, that Mary was a priestess title. And looking at the southern France, I think in this village called Trois Maries sur la Mer, Three Marys from the Sea, I think in that village, there are 3 skulls preserved, believed to be the mother Mary, the mother of Yeshua, Mary Salome, and some third Mary. And it is said that they were all Marys. So most likely Mary was actually a title for the priestess. And priestess as a role is not just a spiritual aspect. Priestess is also a spiritual and social leader, is a person who is a connection between heaven and earth, between the spiritual dimension and the human dimension, and is transferring information from the higher realms, from the higher dimensions. It's a person who dedicated her or his life to the service, to be, a channel for the spirit to the people. I don't want to ramble too much on that topic, because there is a lot of information of Mary Magdalene. I, for the end, would like to also encourage anybody who listens to my humble story to check out the forensic interpretation or the forensic analysis of Mary Magdalene's skull, how she might have looked like. Because through all this time that this high, powerful manager woman was put firstly wrongly and then she was regaining her position, there grew, in my opinion, a very thick romantic layer around Mary Magdalene. So we can see her images as a wild, white, pale, red hair, juicy, sexy lady. And, from this forensic analysis of her skull, there's a completely different image coming out. So I highly recommend to check out how possibly Mary Magdalene looked like. For me personally, this story of Mary Magdalene is showing the process of femininity in our society, from this deep, dark age of patriarchy that was trying to push femininity to the margin, demonizing it, giving it a bad fame, putting it in the social margin, in the dirty side of life, to returning in the power, in the full power, not just spiritual power, but also social power, and also, in my feeling, power of integrated personality, integrated identity of who am I as a woman, and also of who am I as a man, that has connection to femininity in the world, in the spiritual aspect, and within own self. I think for us, people of the Western culture, exploring the story of Mary Magdalene is very important for our mental health, to regain deep respect for the goddess, for our primal mother, for the giver of life, for the nurturer of life, to regain this deep aspect of this huge, omnipresent power of the feminine.